So what I mean to say is, even though if you have not known this protocol, you can derive some answer there, because this protocol is speaking in context of the so-called photochemical smog. At least you can write that, okay, this protocol is speaking about to reduce those pollutants which are causing harm to the environment through photochemicals, right? So such as NOx, sulfur dioxide. If you are writing, you can manage at least one sentence or two sentences, because the question is asked in one context, and that context is photochemical smog context. So I don't think that it is somewhat difficult, because you can manage it, though you don't know the exact provisions, don't know the so-called the years, but still you can manage it. How? This is the way in which you can manage. Again, it is manageable question. The first part is easy, the second part is manageable. Let's look at the eighth question. Explain the mechanism and occurrences of cloudburst in the context of the so-called Indian subcontinent. Discuss two recent examples, right? You can write any number of examples, right, uh, which are happening in the so-called the recent examples. Hyderabad, Mumbai, Assam, anything you can write. Explain the mechanism and occurrences of the cloudburst in the context of Indian subcontinent. Now they are asking about the mechanism of cloudburst. Now this is something which you study in geography, environmental geography, right? Now mechanism of cloudburst is similar to the so-called mechanism of precipitation, right? Mechanism of rainfall. The only thing is, if this rainfall is going more than 100 millimeters per 1 hour, then that is called as cloudburst. That is the only thing. Otherwise, they are asking about the mechanism of the so-called rainfall. Uh, Whatever it is, whether it is Indian context or any other context, rainfall is having only one thing. The only difference is that in the tropics, there will be one type of occurring of this rainfall. In the so-called temperate regions, there is frontolysis, right? Frontosis, right? So these type of things differ, but they are asking in the Indian context. As a result, you have to write about how rainfall is occurring in the Indian context. So again, this is somewhat manageable if you know that cloudburst is something which is related to rainfall with recent examples. So I don't consider this as a difficult question. You can manage this question. The only difficult thing is sixth one here. Look at 15 marker, 50 marker questions. Discuss global warming and mention its effects on the global climate. This is 16th and 17th question. This is 17th and 18th question. Discuss global warming and mention its effects on the global climate. Explain the control measures to bring down the levels of greenhouse gases which cause global warming in the light of Kyoto Protocol 1997. A very simple question, right? Those who are, we are preparing for prelims, global warming, what is this? What are the gases that are responsible for Kyoto Protocol, what it is, what are the gases that Kyoto Protocol is focusing on, and then you can write about the recent Kigali Agreement, right? These things you study in prelims itself, so no need to go in depth about this. A very simple question. Next one, explain the causes and effects of the so-called coastal erosion in India. Causes and effects of coastal erosion in India. They are asking what is the cause and what are the effects of coastal erosion. What are the available coastal management techniques for combating this hazard? Now, coastal management is something which we study in disaster management, and this is previous year question, by the way. In the last 8 years, they asked this question: coastal management or coastal erosion, illegal sand mining. So these things they are repetitively asking. As a result, I don't consider again this as a difficult question if you know the context of previous year questions. So what is the take-up? These are the 5 questions that they asked in the so-called environment and disaster management for a mark of 60 marks, right? So one thing that you can understand is, as far as environment and disaster management is considered, what is the take-up? The percentage of questions are increasing every year. So what is your preparation? Prepare for prelims, as I said. Environment completely. Just like your geography, I said this in the part of geography itself. Give 1 month time for this subject, analyze the things, and then you can get the marks. No need to prepare environmental module separately. No. It is not worth the time that you are keeping. So rather than that, you prepare it for prelims clearly. Just like your polity, history, geography, environment, you prepare it for prelims, then it is going to help. Economy, no, not for prelims. You have to separately prepare for this paper, right? So this is as far as environment and disaster management is considered. Now, what about the 5 questions that they asked here? Right? What about the 5 questions that they asked here? 3 questions are manageable, 2 questions are quite complex, right? This is what the analysis is. Let's look at the last part, that is called internal security component. Linkages between development and spread of extremism, role of external state actors, non-state actors, challenges to internal security through communication networks, role of media, social media in creating challenges to internal security and basics of cyber security. Money laundering and its prevention, security challenges and their management in the border areas, linkages of organized crime with terrorism, various security forces, their agencies and their mandate. Simple. Again, I said this, you have to prepare this as a module. If you prepare this as a module, you can attempt all the questions here. Very simple. Every year they will ask 4 questions. UPSC maintain the same thing. 9, 10, 19, 20 questions are from internal security. The same thing or the same trend was followed. Discuss the types of organized crimes. Discuss the linkages between terrorists and organized crimes that exist at the national and international level. Right. So this is the thing that they are asking. Linkages between organized crime and terrorism. Direct question. Right. We discussed this in the class also. What is a crime? What is organized crime? What are the different types of crimes? How that crime is going to link with the so-called terrorist organizations? How terrorist organizations are different from the so-called organized criminals? And what are the nexus between them? Why they do Why do they have nexus? Simple question, because this is directly taken from the subject, and the second one is it is also a previous year question. So leave it. Look at 10th question. What are the maritime security challenges in India? Discuss organizational, technical and procedural initiatives taken to improve the maritime security. This is somewhat bit tight in the sense majority of the students don't prepare this, but in the syllabus itself there is something called role of external state actors and non-state actors in creating challenges. Here itself I said challenges will be from the so-called land state actors or maritime state actors, right? So this is what I discussed. This is what I discussed in our class. So it goes with security. You have to provide security to the country in every domain. So in that section itself, I said India is surrounded by 7 nations where you will have security that are called state actors. At the same time, you have Sri Lanka, Maldives, these type of countries. You have to have maritime security. Now, they are asking the question in this slide. What are the maritime security challenges in India? You can write this maritime security challenges. You can take China an example, and you can write like string of pearls policy, like the fisherman issues, like the Karachi issue, right? Or the waters of the so-called between India and Bangladesh, India and the so-called Pakistan. You can write these things. Discuss organizational, technical, procedural initiatives. Organizational means government organizations. Technical means what are the technical initiatives like bordering the borders with the so-called integrated border management systems. Procedural initiatives, they are asking that. So it is quite manageable. This is for 10 marker. They ask you 2 sections. In that 2 sections, they are asking further small divisions. So something very easy. Again, I don't say this is difficult. With your basic analysis, you can write this answer if you have not prepared. But I think you will go with preparation because this is something which is related in the topic directly. Let's look at the last 2 questions. What are the different elements of cyber security? I said every year they are going to be asking one question on this angle. What is that angle? This angle. One question will be there definitely. In that, major priority will be given to this, right? I said that, and they ask every year this is a question. So what are the different elements of cyber security? Keeping in view of the challenges in cyber security, examine to what extent the extent to which India has successfully developed comprehensive national cyber security strategy. Comprehensive national cyber security strategy. Now you can write this with the inputs that we have discussed in the class. I have said clearly what are the legislative measures, executive measures, what are the other measures that are adapted in order to include comprehensive national cyber security policy. Very simple question, direct question. Again, a repetitive question. Naxalism is a social, economic and developmental issue manifesting as violent internal security threat. In this context, discuss the emerging issues. Discuss the issues that are emerging, right? The so-called recent issues like urban Naxalism that is happening, and suggest a multi-layered strategy to tackle Naxalism. Simple question and a very direct question. This we have discussed many times in internal security class, right? So if you look at internal security, again all the 4 questions are within the reach and within expected range. So internal security go as per module wise, and if you are studying that as per module wise, it takes not more than 4 days to prepare this subject. For science and technology, no need to prepare at all. Focus on after prelims, but when you are preparing for prelims, focus on general science as well as technological component. For the so-called environment and disaster management, no need to have separate module, go with prelims module. For economy and internal security, go for modules. This is what I said, right? So internal security, you have to go as per the module. So what is the analysis here? So what is the myth? Myth is again writing every day one question or writing joining some test series for these type of things. Don't waste your time, don't waste your energy, use your time and energy very efficiently where you can focus on the maximum things. That has been my concept, that has been what I am proposing right from day one. Don't waste your time. So the myth is joining an exam or going after some critical questions like the question that they have asked, right? Like this question. So if you are going after these type of questions, right, it is not going to have any value of your life or for your UPSC. So it is going to take away color from your life. So add color to your life by removing those things. So this is a myth. So don't go after these type of exams at all. Right? Have a comprehensive outlook of how UPSC is asking. Open your eyes and ears to the reality of the world, and then you'll come to know what exactly are the questions that they are asking and how to tackle that. So what is the future plan? I just said the future plan for the so-called GS paper 3. Economy has to be separately studied as a module, just like your internal security. If I keep these two aside, don't need to study science and technology, just have a current affairs as well as environment, don't need to study separately, but it has to be an integral component of your prelims. This is GS paper 3. So out of all the question papers so far that I have gone, GS paper 1 is quite easy, GS paper 3 is very, very easy. So every year there has to be, there used to be some tough questions in GS paper 3, but this year there is straightforward questions. So there is any chance of getting, if you are preparing it decently, you can get a score of around 120 also in this paper with this type of question paper. Right, this is what for the day is. Thanks for joining. We'll be joining in the evening for GS paper 4 analysis. Until then, take care. Goodbye.